Hi everybody. This is my last time before we return to our regularly scheduled recording or programming with DH. I don't know if it'll be starting next week or the week after, but soon. So what we're going to cover tonight is a little ritual I came up with myself, guided meditation. Explain some of the theory and structure of it before and then also after. But the basic idea of it's a chakra inversion, not removal. And I use this as daily meditation. I haven't been doing it daily recently, but I did it daily for like a year. I also use this before I do my evocations. This is like one of the preliminary after I do the circle, like we talked about in the first class. I do this, and then I go into the evocation portion of the program. So it's kind of a prep. And the basic idea of it is that I'm going to use the Matrix analogy because I just watched the first two again, getting ready to watch the new one. Basic theory of it is, think of the chakras almost as the plugs between us and the Matrix. And the idea here is we're going to just blow them out one by one. The idea is to disconnect from the God out there so that we can connect with the God in here. And to do that, so a traditional Kundalini raising starts at the root, and you come up through the chakras and then go out the top of your head, right? This starts here and goes all the way down. And to do that, I'm using a couple of different techniques. One of them is, if you're familiar with, I think this comes from Tibetan Buddhism, but it's called the Blue Pearl meditation. You're going to be familiar with that. We use clefothic breathing, which we'll talk about a little bit more. That can be a little tricky. And also we're as kind of a result of the clefothic breathing, although you can do the visualization without the clefothic breathing. We're turning the chakra off and then on again in reverse polarity, if that makes sense. So if you visualize it as, I don't, but if you visualize it as a wheel that's spinning one way, another way of doing the visualization when we get to it would be that the wheel slows, stops, and then goes the other way. And I'm going to leave out the evocation portion. I'm going to leave out the portion of it where it is specifically aimed at Lilith. And I'm going to talk about, and we will attempt a few cycles of clefothic breathing, but it was really tricky for me. It might not be for you. Generally speaking, if it doesn't feel really challenging the first couple of times you do it, it's probably because it's not working yet. So yeah, and then you can just do the visualization normally, but the clefothic breathing is kind of it's a big part of it. However, like I said, it can be very challenging, and it can start changes. This whole thing can start changes. It made big changes for me. Good. Some uncomfortable. So even if we're doing it tonight, if you continue this, you don't continue this, doesn't matter. If you start to feel dizzy, you start to feel weird, things start to feel off, as we're doing the demonstration, we'll just quietly stop. You just stop doing it, stop following along, and then I'll just keep motoring through. part of the idea is that we are attempting to reverse the normal flow of energy through your energetic body, if you like that metaphor, and I do. Another, in addition to unplugging and reversing all the energy flows, another purpose to it is I find that there is in traditional sort of chakra meditation, I find that there is a subtle implication. So Kundalini represents the sexual energy, right? I find that there is and we raise it up through, to the third eye and then out the top. In that is a subtle privileging of the spiritual and the intellectual above the fleshy and the sexual, right? And in that sense, so almost like you hear traditional practitioners talk about this all the time, where the idea is we are trying to almost sublimate the sexual urge in other directions. And in my view, it's at least as useful to take the intellect, right, the consciousness, and lower it down into the physical and to achieve a sort of primal awareness. And that's where we'll finish, because when we get to we don't start at the top, but the crown on this one, we start at the third eye, we work our way down. When we get to the bottom, we actually drop out the bottom, and that's where I'll finish. But and then explain the add-ons, extensions, other uses, kind of thing. So I'm using this to just keep track. We only need to keep track of 3 breaths per stop, per chakra. The mantra that we use here generally is Crowley's for Karanzan, which is Zazas, Zazas, Nasa, Tananda, Zazas. And then because I'm going directly into like a Lilith working, once we drop out the bottom, I switch to Asenath Mason's. I assume it's hers. That's the first place I read it, and the only place I've seen it so far. Lilith mantra, which is Maragama Lilith Remug Samalo Nama. But we're not doing that. First, we're going to practice the glyphothic breathing. So take a few cleansing breaths, get loose, get relaxed, get ready to go. Take a few cleansing breaths, and you may already be familiar with this, but you're going to want to, usually when we do this, we inhale white light or white smoke, exhale black smoke. So, right now, glyphothic breathing is that backwards. So what we're doing is, when you breathe in, you are still on the white light phase, but as you are breathing in, visualize pushing white light out. And then when you exhale, you visualize pulling it in, pulling the darkness in, right? This is why we're only going to try it 3 times. Because the first time I did it, I was standing up, and after 3 cycles, I had to sit down and it took several days of trying before I was able to do anything else with it. Let's put it that way. So we're going to try that. I would say we'll do it silently because there's nothing else to do here. I'm going to do 3 cycles regular and then 3 cycles glyphothic. I would suggest trying the same and see how you feel. Okay? So, this is normal now. 1, 2, and 3. Now reverse it. 1, 2, and 3. And like I said, I haven't done it for a while, so I'm already feeling kind of a little dizzy about it. Yeah. So take a few moments, and decide whether you want to continue with that or not. If at any point it gets to be too much while we're doing it, just in your head, just flip back to normal, or stop doing it and you'll naturally return to normal. So yeah, so we're going to start with the actual ritual proper now. So start your breathing, clefothic or normal, and visualize your body growing bigger and bigger. And as you do, your consciousness stays sort of in your head where it's supposed to be, but the cavern of your skull gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it forms a chamber. And right here, surface of where your third eye would be, there's water, calm pool of water, and your consciousness is a point floating on that water. And in front of you is this really bright violet star. That's your third eye. And if you're doing clefothic breathing at this point, what you want to do is when you, on the exhale cycle, when you pull the darkness in, you want to stream it into that star. If you're doing normal breathing, that's fine. Just do the visualization along. We do 1 repetition of the mantra for each breath cycle, and we're going to do 3. And then we're going to drop down and keep going down. Okay? So purple star is there, violet star. Breathe in. Zazas, zazas, nasatananda, zazas. It gets dimmer. Second cycle. Zazas, zazas, nasatananda, zazas. It gets even dimmer. Third cycle. Zazas, zazas, nasatananda, zazas. It gets dark, and it becomes like a black hole. Almost, at least that's how I see it. Like a black hole rimmed in a dark violet light. Now we gently float down to the throat chakra and do the same thing. So, cycle 1. Zazas, zazas, nasatananda, zazas. 2. Zazas, zazas, nasatananda, zazas. 3. Zazas, zazas, nasatananda, zazas. It's now dark. Come down to the heart. Zazas, zazas, nasatananda, zazas. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Solar plexus. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Navel. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Finally, the root. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Zazas, Zazas, Nasatananda Zazas. Now your consciousness floats out of your body, from underneath your root, into a dark cavern. And you want to continue your breathing, saying that mantra in your head for as long as you want. While you're doing that, I'm going to talk about you should be able to look up at this point in your subjective view and see all the chakras above you in a straight line, each in their own colors, violet, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red, as black holes with that corona around it, like a solar eclipse. You may have spirits begin to speak to you at this point. Listen to them. You may experience things, go places, go with it. And when you're done, what you want to do is, if you've been doing clefothic breathing, stop. And you don't have to undo what we just did, but you do want to gently, slowly stop your mantra, stop the clefothic breathing, bring everything back up, and then return to normal. Surface slowly, is what I'm trying to say. So I'll give you all a minute live and at home to do that. And then we'll break down what we just did. Not a full minute. I'll give you like 30 seconds. All right. It's fine if you're not fully back in reality. We went through it pretty quickly. As you can see, it doesn't take very long. My suggestion is that if it's a lot going on. If you have trouble as you're practicing this at home, it's okay to take multiple breath cycles between each thing. As you're doing the visualization, if you find it takes more than 3, that's fine. I went with 3 for numerological reasons, which is kind of a backwards 666, which is we're doing 6 chakras, 3 repetitions each. extensions and other uses are if you're going to do an evocation, especially of a spirit you've already worked with. So, as I mentioned in the evocation class, when I do my first one with a live spirit, sort of at that point, once I'm down in the cavern, right, I bring in Lilith and Lucifer, because those are my gatekeepers. Then I'm going to go through the actual, without stopping what I'm doing with this meditation, staying in that state, I'm going to do the ritual thing. And admittedly, that takes a little bit of practice, because you're not all the way there. It's kind of like driving your car from the back seat. It's a little weird. But if it's one I've worked with before, usually what I do is visualize in the cavern space a door. This is also how I do Lilith and Lucifer. A door, and on the door is their sigil in red, just sort of hanging there. And I do their N or a mantra for them, however many cycles it takes to get them in contact. And the reason I do Lilith and Lucifer first is because they're my gatekeepers, right? My view on approaching the Goetia especially is start at the top, and then let them, since they're the king and queen of the whole thing, let them be the ones who make sure that whatever shows up is what you think is going to show up. Other things you can do is you can actually visualize the Kundalini as a dragon down in that cave, and then you get on top of the dragon, you ride them all the way back up. That's actually what the Tibetans do with this version of meditation. You can also just use it for if you're going to do sigil magic. This is a good way to get into that primordial awareness of the void of chaos, right? The void of manifestation, where you could project a sigil out into that. And you could project a sigil out into that and sort of visualize it dissolving out into the universe. Because this is the place that you are going from a sort of metaphysical standpoint, as I see it, is kind of the font of identity. When you drop out the bottom of your root chakra into the cavern, you are no longer yourself. You are your higher self, at least. And you are, the deeper down you go, the closer you're going to get to that true non-dual awareness. You probably don't want to go all the way, because the problem with trying to do magic from a point of absolute non-dual awareness is the fact that there's nothing to do, right? It's hard to change things when there's nothing to change, right? It's hard to know things when there's nothing to know. So, and you can also just use this as a daily meditation. I'm doing it sitting up. I usually do it laying down. Other insertions and add-ons are if you are using any kind of ritual oil or flying ointment or elixir or anything in that herbal psychoactive ritual category. Before is a good time. The example I'm gonna use is Jen Vatsa's Belladonna Botanicals. Buy her shit. Her flying ointments. So for me, it usually takes at least 3 applications to really get going. And so I will do one before I start the like the circle and everything. And then when that's done, I'm going to do a second application, do this thing, then do a third application, right when I'm done with the ritual portion of the evocation, and then come back to this. And that's the other thing, is the reason when you do like the ritual part of the evocation, if you're going to get up and do stuff, you don't want to leave that place, because as soon as you're done doing that, you're going to go right back to it, right? So that's another one. If you have trouble sort of staying in that primal awareness, you might want to do all of the standing up and walking around portions of your ritual before you start this. Advantages are, I found, as you've seen, once you start practicing it a little bit, it really doesn't take longer than, it takes a little, I do a little bit longer. My breath's a lot slower and stuff when I'm not having to talk through it and try to be here and also be there at the same time, which is a new challenge for me. I'm discovering that. It really doesn't take longer than 20 or 30 minutes to do. Really doesn't take more than 20 or 30 minutes to do, and once you're done with it, I find that I'm able, even with a brand new spirit, I'm able to be in contact in at most another 20 to 30 minutes. So that adds up to about 40 minutes, but you're doing more stuff, and so it's probably easier than doing black mirror scrying, which I've not done. It's on my list of things I want to try. But everything I've read on it, including Poke Runyon, who is absolutely the master on that black mirror scrying form of Goetia, it takes to get the psychological trigger to work takes like a good 40 minutes. Even with experienced scryers, it takes a good 40 minutes. And the other thing, based largely on Poke Runyon's writing on the subject, is that I've read that Black Mirror scrying really works better if you have a separate operator. So separate operator is, in his version, you literally have another person standing right behind you doing all the actual ritual, and then when you get to that portion of it, he is standing behind you doing the hypnotic induction on you. It's difficult to get into the mental state you need to get to, especially the first time you've done it, apparently, without a co-pilot. Although I also know of plenty of people who do this without a co-pilot, but only reason I really haven't tried it, I know a lot about it because I read a lot about it. It's like the first stuff I read in Magic, but I discovered that this works a lot better for me. It's definitely worth trying out. I have old write-ups of it, but I haven't been able to find them, so I'm going to need to do a new write-up of it, apparently. I don't know if that will be ready at publishing time for this video, because I want to get it right, and not so I don't have to do it again. And I will post the link once the document is ready. I will post the Google Docs link for it down in the box, and I will also post it in the Discord, probably publicly. I'm not gonna restrict that to just the Metaphysical Study Group. That's meant to be published wide. And Yeah, play around with it. Experiment with it. I look forward to hearing feedback. Because it's not something I've published it at, like, on Reddit before a long time ago, and here and there and stuff like that, but I've never really heard a lot of feedback on it, so I don't know if people are really trying it. So you people are all my beta testers, so poof poof, you're empowered. Go forth, monkey with your metaphysical innards, and let me know how that feels. Probably a good point to talk about potential problems. Any form of new thing, magical thing that we're doing, even meditation thing, even regular old mindfulness meditation has its risks. We all know this, or we should know this. This has its risks too. If you push this hard past your ability to handle it, it will go bad, and it will go bad quickly. You will spin yourself out, and shit will get weird really fast in terms of your whole energy field. It gets really weird. Which is why I will reiterate what I said, which is, if at any point you start to feel weird, especially with the clefothic breathing portion, just stop the clefothic breathing. If at any point, even just doing it without the clefothic breathing, things start to feel off or weird or not good, just stop. You don't have to come back up. You don't have to do anything else. You literally just stand up, walk away, and just don't try it again, at least for, I'd say, 72 hours. In my experience, you have to reinforce this at least daily for an extended period of time. It never really becomes permanent. The less you do it, the less you have done it, and the less you do it, the faster you will return to normal. But even if you do it like I did every day for a year and then stop, if you just stop, things will return to normal fairly quickly. For me, it was about a month. But a very useful thing to be able to do is to be able to turn this on and off at will, right? Which is why I no longer do this daily. I find that just with once I start the clefothic, this is anything magical. Once you do it a bunch of times, the breath itself becomes the trigger. And within so in my daily meditation, within a couple of cycles of doing glyphothic breathing, I'm all the way down, I'm all the way there. That's a useful skill to have in a lot of things, is once you reach some new state, place, state of mind, whatever, headspace, whatever you want to call it, stop and pause long enough to really experience what you're experiencing. This is where practice in mindfulness becomes handy, right? You want to be mindful in the state because you want to be able to capture in your mind what it's like, where you're at, sort of the GPS coordinates of this state of mind, so that you can get here again, right? Because the hardest part of anything like this is getting there the first time, right? And so many this is what people screw up with chemognosis so much, right? And why less is more when it comes to chemognosis. With chemognosis, people tend to overshoot, right? So they tend to overshoot the state, and the problem is once they overshoot it, they didn't see it as it went by, and also they're kind of not in the right state of mind to be able to remember what happened clearly enough. there's some chaos magic tricks for this that I have used, which is once you reach a particular state of mind, this can also come in very handy if you're working with spirits. So the first time you really get in touch with the spirit. So whatever it is, whatever moment you're trying to capture, again, this takes a little bit of practice, but you have your journal, you have a pen, you automatic write a sigil right then and there, right? And that's called an anchor sigil. So then I have several. And so then when you want to go back to that place or talk to that thing, now you have your own sigil for that thing. And by reinforcing it a few times, then that becomes like the fast forward button, right? You just, boom, you meditate on that sigil and you're there. Very handy. This is why a lot of magicians, so like in the old Grimoire tradition, what you had was a book of spirits, which was, the sigils in the grimoire were just to get in touch with them the first time. Once you got in touch with them, they would sign your book with a sigil that would take you back, that would be just yours for them. And, you don't want to be superstitious about it, but you don't want to share those, right? That's not something you share. Same thing as, I tend not to get hung up on ends and mantras. I have a couple that I use for specific purposes, but what a lot of people do then is also will channel a new mantra or end to go along with that sigil. Again, those probably shouldn't be shared. One way of looking at it is that I would say that the sigil and mantra or N that everyone uses is a map to the location. The one you get yourself it's like transporter coordinates. Like you're just beaming right there. You're not going through all the stuff. Because believe me, especially when you start doing Clefothic work, you need that because, you get very far up on the tree and you don't want to have to be doing 40 minutes of work 5 times just to get to where you were. You want to be able to get back there. And there's other techniques for doing this. Spirit doors, spirit boats. So you one of the first spirits you make contact with would be some spirit that's like the messenger of the gods kind of thing. And then you ask him to take you basically to where you want to go. This is also why things like Asenath Mason's and Bill Duvendak's recommendation for Clefothic work, which is you do all the spheres first before you do any of the paths, why that works. And that's actually the way a lot of Kabbalistic and Clefothic workers work. Because the spheres and the Qliphoth are actually the easy parts. It's the paths that are hard. Paths are where it's at. The spheres and the Sephiroth and the Qliphoth are just the anchor points. They're the hubs on the Tinker Toys. They're not. The magic happens here. It doesn't happen in the anchor points. So I think that's everything on this ritual. Please try it out. Let me know in the comments or on the Discord or, I don't know, carrier pigeon. Psychic message. Oh, no, not psychic message. My defenses are pretty good. I'd hate for you to step into one of my bear traps. And let me know what you think, what your experiences are. I want to know everything about it, good, bad, and indifferent. I will pause now for any questions from the person who is here. I'm cerebrocranial vapor locking right now. Okay. Okay. I will also thank everybody watching now and at home. This has been enjoyable. I know things got a little hectic for me with work and life and shit, and it's about to start again because there is yet another critical remote code execution vulnerability in this piece of crap software that has been ruining my life for a month now. You know, it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. I definitely am now and will solicit feedback and constructive criticism from you, the public, and also DH on this. I will make a brief excursion into Buy My Shit. It's not available yet, but there is stuff coming. I'm going to start posting more videos to my YouTube channel. Along with those is going to be, hopefully, sort of short form video courses that I will make available through or with DH. I think I work better with a partner on some of that stuff. And then there's going to be full courses available at some point with like an LMS. It's not just sit down, watch videos. It's going to be watch a video, read an article, and then like quizzes and assignments and tests and shit like that. That's a project that several people are working on right now. News will follow. I don't want to flog it too much because this really ain't my channel to do it. But you know, I'm assuming DH is going to be fine with it because you know, whatever. If he's on one of my videos, he's welcome to plug his shit. That's the whole point of these, right? Buy our shit. Buy his shit. Speaking of buying his shit, this is how you suck up. Oh. So that's actually what I used some of the money I got on this from. So, in video games. No, not just video games. I actually bought some real ritual stuff and used some of it for gas money to go somewhere and get some stuff that I needed. Spooky stuff. Last safety tip I'll give you. I actually got told by Lilith to like stop doing this thing for a little while because it was messing me up. Chakras are bullshit. Just so you know. You know, we tend to have this really just so view of there are 7 of them, there are only 7 of them, there are these specific 7, and this is what they're like. And if you go to India, that is not what it is at all. They have so many different versions. There's some with 11, there's some with 9, there's some with more, there's some with less. You know, Kabbalistically and glyphothically, there's that whole middle pillar thing that is kind of the same thing but completely different. There's the Gnostic pentagram zone one that I talked about, I think, in that first video. There's, yeah, lots of them. Lots of different ones. Systems for this. This is one I happen to use for this because it's useful for me to do so. Feel free to modify and experiment. However, as always, you should probably try it by the book a few times before you start making changes without knowing, you know, making changes, because you don't know what's important to it and what's not important to it until you do it the right way a couple of times, at least. So this has been kind of a short one, but that's okay. It's the holidays. I know you guys are going to be busy. Some of you aren't going to be looking at this for probably a very long time, so that's fine. And this will give you a little something to chew on between now and when DH returns to you next week or the week after. So it's been fun. I'm going to stop the recording and say goodbye to everybody. Bye, everybody. And